Hey YouTube, it's me from Bam's Tactical. Today I want to talk about an article that I read on Zero Hedge. It's not written by me or anything, but I read it the other day and it really hit a good spot with me and made me think twice about what I do. So it was on May 4th on ZeroHedge.com. It was submitted by Thad Beaversdorf via firstrebuttal.com. So like I said, it's not from me, but I would like to read it to you. It's kind of lengthy, so bear with me. I find it shocking how often I have people tell me the Constitution is out of date and is no longer relevant or necessary. There are the vast majority of people that think about the Constitution the same way they think about religion. It makes us feel good to believe in it, and will even worship it on a holiday or two. The reality is that those who seem to get very worked up to the point that they are willing to act in defense of the Constitution, even against the highest level of government, make up a very small minority of Americans. This is a real problem. Like I said, this hit a spot with me. You see, if people give a damn, the government couldn't get away with negating the Constitution. But the vast majority of people just don't give a damn, and so the government very easily provides ridiculous and false legal sounding arguments to explain away why they have become a higher law than the Constitution. Now, I've tried to understand why it is that we Americans are so damn apathetic about everything the government and the government officials do. Let me give a couple of examples of which our apathy just boggles my mind. We know they took us into wars on false pretenses, resulting in the wrongful deaths of thousands of American soldiers and hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians, and yet we've prosecuted no one. Hell, they've admitted to hacking into millions of our home webcams and downloading videos and pictures of us in our most private moments and maintaining those downloads on government servers and then sharing these files with foreign governments. That's why I don't have a webcam. This is on a separate camcorder. But because today's American is simply a shell of a citizen, simply a shell of a citizen, none of the criminal atrocities creates even a stir from us. Sure, we all read about these atrocities and we are angered in the moment, but it passes rather quickly and we fall back into our self-induced ignorant bliss. Only two things can get Americans to formidably rise up. The first is a very direct and immediate impediment to our comfort. For example, try cutting back on the monthly social welfare checks and you'll have riots. The second way is if the mainstream media relentlessly instructs us to be upset about a particular issue. Outside of that, there is absolutely nothing the new American won't move past like water off a duck's back. What we're finding out is that, and it sounds slightly overdramatic, but it isn't at all, unless we are willing to fight and die to win back the freedom our forefathers fought and died to secure for us, in all future generations we will continue to feel our chains grow heavier and shorter. The simple reason is because our government is very much willing to kill to keep its ever-encroaching control. A free population is the antithesis to a political class. And make no mistake, the American federal government is the largest and most powerful group of aristocrats the world has known. This group of traitors, and I mean that in the very technical sense of the word, not only behave according to a separate set of laws, but they actually have gone as far as to legislate a separate set of laws. This in itself is a direct breach of the very Constitution they swear to defend. Their intent is clear, and that, my friends, is treason. They are directly negating the very basis of the American concept for their own personal self-interest, and they are doing so by defrauding American citizens into believing that their intent is to represent the will of their constituents. If it's not treason, what else would you call it? Now, are you ready to fight and die to win the freedoms back for your children and your grandchildren? Hell no, not at all, and that's kind of the problem. Because again, the government is willing to kill to ensure your kids and grandkids don't have the freedoms Americans were guaranteed. The fuck of it is, Americans have become so damn brainwashed that despite the Founding Fathers telling us explicitly our government would end up enslaving the rest of us to solidify their own power and wealth, we still ignore it. These were the guys that figured out the British were effectively enslaving us and decided to rise up against them and create the greatest damn nation the world has ever known. They literally created America. I mean, holy shit, imagine having that on your resume. And we pay them no mind, like they're batshit crazy and not relevant in our intellectual new world. Today's legislatures rarely discuss the Founding Fathers or the Constitution beyond the very thin idea that they know we expect them to defend it. That is like freedom and apple pie. They love it during the campaign cycle. However, ask them why then they continue to legislate against the Constitution and then won't talk about it. And we the people, like apathetic morons, buy into the bullshit they feed us because we simply don't care. It's a huge problem. And so I've got a bunch of friends, we all do, but that don't believe that it's a problem worth talking about. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to YouTube with this and not posting it on Facebook or some social media site like that, because I don't want to debate it, because those people that are on those sites are the ones that are going to say, oh, well, I care so much, and all they're going to do is post on Facebook about it, and they're not going to do anything. I'm trying to talk to Facebook about, or to YouTube about it, because I feel like the kind of people that are looking at videos on this channel are already the kind of people who are thinking this way. Here we go. The danger of being apathetic until it impacts our immediate day-to-day is that we allow the government to take away all the freedoms we are not currently using. And this is a big one. What I mean by that is we so far have not had to face what it means to be powerless and in chains, but only because we haven't yet ventured out far enough as to reach the end of our chains. We are like a sleeping dog that isn't aware he's been shackled until he wakes and tries to chase a bird. We are asleep and unaware of the shackles placed around our ankles. Some will say, wait, it isn't apathy, it's a trade-off between safety and freedom. But the truth is, freedom and safety are not conflictual. We've only been led to believe so. Fear has replaced freedom here in America, and that is not by chance, but by strategy of a government that has its own agenda, separate from its oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. The Constitution is our freedom keeper, but once the Constitution is made subordinate, the precedent is set in our legal system. Precedence is king. So, the strength of our Constitution is just that, its strength. Once we allow an exception to the Constitution's superseding authority, it no longer has any authority. Unfortunately, that exception has already been made. With it, the destruction of the Constitution and the end to a guarantee of freedom. Our corrupt government has created legislation providing them a legal basis to imprison us without due process. This is a fact. This desecrates one of the most important axioms of America. In fact, due process is the very idea we are sold to spend $1 trillion per year fighting multiple simultaneous major theater wars. Yet here at home it no longer exists. But remember, our loss of due process is for our own good. Giving a federal legislature or policymaker absolute discretion over our fate is in our best interest. You and I have agreed with these propositions, and you and I will have to adhere to being placed in prison for life if that is the will of our president or any delegate who benefit by accusing us of being a national security threat. Just the fact that the threat exists fulfills its objective. People will not want to bring attention to themselves and thus will avoid protesting the wants of those who now have the authority to impede their freedom. That in itself impedes their freedom. That is why I created this YouTube channel. I feel like, you read all the prepper books, all the prepper websites and stuff, talk about OPSEC and how you operational security, you can't let anybody know what you're doing, don't let your neighbors know, don't let your friends know, they're just going to come and use you for your stuff. But then I realized that if I'm one of the last ones left in a shit hit the fan situation, it's not worth being left. I don't want it to get to that point. I decided I wanted to help wake people up, and that's why I made this channel. Alright? I'm trying to spread the word that we're not doing enough by preparing for ourselves, by staying a tight-knit, small prepper community. We're not doing enough. We need to make this more mainstream. We need to get more people involved to stop the ruling elite from doing this to us. This is the one thing I really wish people could see. What seem like issues too narrow or too small to get worked up over are just marks of the snake bite. Two very small holes in the skin, but those holes are the gateway for the real killing agent to spread and overtake the whole system. In March alone, our beefed up and militarized public service workers killed more than 180 citizens they were meant to serve and protect on American soil. That makes them an infinitely higher risk to our safety than the foreign terrorists to whom we've handed our Constitution. That's exactly what we've done. If you listen to the terrorist videos, that was their goal. They wanted to end the freedom and free will that America seems to be jamming down the throats of societies around the world. And so they won the moment Americans accepted to trade away its freedom for safety. That was their goal, and they have achieved it. Let's look at Edward Snowden's situation to see how one loses one's freedom. Snowden is a man that knowingly sacrificed his own freedom to expose the corruption and criminality of our policymakers and their respective agencies. He is also a citizen that has been deemed a threat to national security. Why would a man who exposes the criminal enslavement of Americans and citizens around the world be deemed a terrorist rather than a hero? Because he is a threat to the power and control and really the entire system of those who can now legally classify him as a threat. In effect, these political criminals can now legally lock away any prosecutor at will. This is a gross conflict of interest, and the hero that exposed this conflict of interest is now a victim of it. Edward Snowden not only informed America, he recognized that he would be the first example so that Americans would see firsthand the sort of corruption that has infected our system. I can only infer he made himself known because he believed seeing it actually happen would get Americans to rise up and correct the moral transgression. And what did we, the people, do in response to Snowden's incredibly brave and patriotic action? Absolutely nothing. We force this hero to live in exile. We don't even demand the corruption to stop. We do nothing. How very American of us. And why do we do nothing? Because it doesn't impede our immediate comfort, and the media hasn't told us we need to be concerned about the issue. That's why we have to use alternate media like this to spread the word that we have to get involved. The lives of Americans have become so easy and so secure that we no longer recognize living in a utopia of freedom comes with costs but with obligations. Not with costs but with obligations. We seem to believe that paying taxes indemnifies us of our real obligations as citizens who have been handed a beautiful gift and who are responsible for passing on that precious gift to future generations of Americans. And that is a mistake that will have historians writing of us as we write of Eve in the Garden of Eden. Our lack of principles resulting in the suffering of all future generations, having destroyed a gift we obviously didn't deserve. So, this is just to say, my way of saying we've got to be more involved, not just preparing for us and our immediate family and friends, not just getting training, but politically as well. We have to make a stand. And we've got to write our congressmen and our senators, the representatives and the senators, both state level and federal level, and we've got to start spreading the word about the ones who do not back up freedom. Because those are the ones we got to get out of office. Because there's enough of us out there who are smart enough to become politicians that if somebody else won't get the job done right, then we find somebody who will. All right, we've got to get involved. We've got to fight for the freedom. Right now, it's not a fight to the death. It's not draw your guns, go march in the street and shoot somebody. Right now, we still have a fight we can win without firing a shot. But you've got to get up. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to know what's going on in the world. Be informed. Inform your friends. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. It has to be like, hey, did you hear about this senator? He voted for the NDAA Act. We got to get him out of office. All right, well, so when election day comes around, you remind him, hey, man, remember that senator? We're voting against him this time. All right? I mean, we got to get involved. Well, that's my rant for the day. I hope I didn't bore you too much. And remember, people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Thanks for watching.